when Bowtied Bull I think he tweeted something about how creating an avatar would be beneficial and everything. And then like I kind of saw what was going on. I hopped in. I was like, let's see what's going on. And then, all of a sudden within a 2 week span, it seemed like everything was just moving at such a quick pace. And then I guess that's how the jungle was born. I mean, the first 2 weeks of the jungle, you saw it was absolutely crazy. Everybody was tweeting. Everybody was on Discord. Like, you could not keep up with the amount of information that was being put out by everybody because everybody was trying to jump in and get in.
It was a swarm of cyber degen hornets. It's early on is, I think, early May, Oxyply. They're talking about Discord. And of course, now there's a Spaces. I guess it's not Discord, podcast. Well, Sponge showed up a couple weeks ago, and then he went and did the first podcast like 2 days ago with me on it. And then he did a Spaces yesterday. It's what Bull was talking about. Like, there's no such thing as original ideas. There's original execution. So I wanted to ask you, referencing your Twitter,
and it'll come back.
It will come back. You mentioned you have something in the works. Can you spare any details or hints as to, what that might be? Is it a newsletter? Is it a website? E-commerce?
All right, so
something to chew on.
It is e-commerce and it is a product or products. Okay. I am working with another animal. You can take your guesses. I think you would probably know out of a few animals, probably at least who it would be.
Get a short list, yeah.
But keeping it under wraps because we believe in the idea and we want to make sure we execute it properly. And I don't want to start like putting it out there and then we run into issues because when running an e-com store anonymously, you kind of have to go through different channels, and like I've never had to do that, so that's something that's new to me.
Different channels? Are you referring to platforms in which to sell?
So for example, like if I want to start my own, if I'm starting my own product, right? I have to go to a supplier for said product. If I want to go to the supplier, the manufacturer, I have to provide my legal information to a lot of these companies. So right now, trying to figure out how to do an anonymous LLC and figure out how we can do this totally anonymously without having to give out our information to the manufacturers.
Interesting. So almost decentralizing at least information in regards to the supply chain. Where Bowtie Bull is hiring people anonymously. Now you want to work in legit, like traditional business relationships anonymously.
Correct. Which you're dealing with certain legalities, and it's a different space. But to me, it's an opportunity that I'm welcoming. It's something that kind of came across to me that felt like a great idea. And now it's just all about, like we're just talking about, execution. So it is going to take a few months to get up. And, there's going to be a significant amount of capital that needs to be spent to be able to get this going. But once it's going, I believe that it's going to be beneficial, not just to the jungle, but to people outside the jungle, because it's going to continue to go on a lot of things that I tweet and a lot of things that the other animals agree on, including you, just with health stuff. So that's as much as I'll give away on that. But I think in your mind, you could take a good guess as to what it is.
I have a couple ideas, and of course, extremely confident that a couple people who you might be working with, but definitely, if you're willing to share, is one of the niches already formed in the jungle a target audience for your product? Are you targeting an audience?
So you're saying like?
So I'll just run through a list. You don't have to specify. But for example, there's bodybuilding, and there's nutrition, and there's cooking, and there's fasting, and there's carnivore, and there's
So
B2B
so guess
SaaS and
what?
OPSEC.
It, so the first five you just mentioned, it kind of goes in with all that. It's kind of under the health umbrella.
Okay, cool. Of course, you
But I
fast
do, like
yourself,
I
right?
said,
As an example,
yes, I fast every day.
what was your
I've
first
been
meal
doing
today?
it for the last 8. My first meal today was around 12 o'clock, 12 p.m. EST. Um, what did I eat today? So first meal I had today was 3 eggs, uh, you know, cooked in ghee with salt and pepper and sourdough
Ye-
toast.
Good man. That's
Yeah.
all you need sometimes.
So
Salt, pepper, butter,
that's
protein.
kind of, yeah. I mean, most mornings when I do cook breakfast, it's always eggs. Sometimes I'll have eggs raw just because I'm on the go and I want them quicker. But I do prefer eating eggs whole just because I enjoy it more. Um,
Rocky
and
style.
I've been eating eggs religiously. Yeah, I've been, I've been eating eggs religiously since I would say eighth, ninth grade in high school, consistently throughout the years. There's some weeks where I might miss a day or two, but for the most part, 6 to 7 days a week, I'm getting eggs in my system because, as you know that how good they are for you, and um, you know
Vitamins, cholesterol, fats,
every
proteins.
everything, and even when you're going organic free range, it's still cheaper than the majority of the shit out there that people are consuming that they think is healthy for them, when in reality it really isn't.
You get a dozen eggs for a couple bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, how did you just kind of go after Twitter and different threads? Is how is your, let's say, lifestyle evolved? Right. Let's say the 3 pillars are health, wealth, relationships, and health can be physical, it can be mental, it can be spiritual. However, you're defining that. How is, let's say, 5 years ago, 2016, uh, your 3 pillars, your lifestyle habits kind of changed?
All right, so you said health, wealth,
Wealth and
relationships, correct?
relationships. So let's start with health.
Okay,
That's
so
you were already touching.
so from health, um, you know, like obviously eggs still the same. Um, from a working out standpoint, I felt like I've gone more, leaned more towards doing lifting than cardio as opposed to about 5 years ago. I was probably doing like a more of a, I'd say like a 60-40 split of cardio or lifting, 60-40 cardio. Now I would say it's more 80-20 lifting the
The
cardio
Tan
just
Paretos
because I
principle,
prefer
the Tan
lifting. I
80/20
think it's
rule.
Yep, but it's exactly what you guys were talking about in the Discord the other night. Exactly. You were going in on it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with just like my health for lifting. But from a food standpoint, I feel like I've learned a lot in the last 5 years. Um, Definitely move more towards a carnivore side of a diet. I don't believe in going all in on a certain food group. I don't think you should just eat total carnivore. I still believe like everything in moderation, balance is key. So I have my cheat meals here and there, and I still enjoy food. As you saw last night on Twitter, I made grilled chicken parm. I mean, it was fire.
Chicken
But
parm.
the cheese isn't perfect for you. The pasta, it's not the healthiest carbs. But I do believe in living your life too, and not trying to be totally strict on everything, because then that's when it feels more like work and you're not enjoying yourself.
It's that balance between, like anything, it's you want to be healthy, but you know you're going to die someday. So where's the cutoff between this is enough?
Yeah, exactly. And as for someone that's, in their mid 20s, right? I look at life and I'd be happy if I lived to 75 or 80. Now, mind you, if I'm extremely healthy at, 80 and I'm feeling real good about myself, then yeah, I would want to live longer. But I mean, if you look at just America in general, I mean, most people that are hitting 80 aren't doing too well. So it's
Most
like
people hitting 50 aren't
I
doing
just want
too
to
well.
live a Exactly. So it's like I want to make sure that I live a life that I enjoy, that I take care of myself, and that I don't want to be like incapacitated. So if I get to that point where I'm running into a lot of health issues or something, it's like, then I don't I don't look at it that way. I want to be able to enjoy life fully.
Are you familiar with the concept of memento mori?
It makes me think of the weekend, but yeah.
Oh, maybe there's a song we can. Memento
Oh
mori is Latin for remember
no,
death.
the yeah, and the first time I ran into that was, I believe, the weekend. The weekend like tweeted about it a few weeks ago, or a few years ago, and then
Okay.
that's the name of his Apple Music podcast, I believe, or his
Oh,
radio
no
or
kidding.
whatever. Yes,
No
Memento.
kidding.
I believe it's Memento Mori. It's on Apple Music Radio. It's Memento Mori. So
Silly.
yeah, but no, yeah,
It's
I'm. Go ahead. Go ahead.
it makes me think of a Steve Jobs Stanford speech from like 15 years ago. It was right after he beat cancer the first time, and before he
Right.
got cancer the second time. So he thinks he had faced death and beat it. And he's saying how death prioritizes it. It cleans out the old and brings in the new. It shows you what's important and what's not important, and it helps you filter out the noise. And I find in the jungle, especially in the jungle, is a lot of people they're interested in improving their health, wealth, relationships, back to the three pillars, but they're not so hung up like, okay, I'm going to be a billionaire. It's more of like, I want to make X amount of money that buys me freedom of time and movement so then I can go pursue the things I'm interested in, whether it's golfing or it's
Perce-
climbing the
per-
Himalayas. Good.
No, you're exactly right. Exactly right. Like I've been saying, that's something that I probably learned about 5 years ago. So I was, probably first or second year of university, and I started to realize like it's about buying yourself freedom. It's not about becoming rich and rich and just having money. There's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. And I want to be wealthy, and that just doesn't mean from a financial perspective. It means from a health perspective. It means from a relationship perspective. It means it from a spiritual perspective, which I think a lot of people in this day and age have lost. They've lost their sense of spirituality, and it's like we are all connected as human beings. We're also connected to a source, whether you believe that's God, whether you believe that's the universe, that's up to you to decide. But we all have to have some type of spirituality in our lives. And I think that lacks a lot in where I look around.
The source, universal consciousness, unity, the divine,
Yeah,
whatever, different names for the same thing across different cultures and times. Damn, we could talk about that for weeks, but or lifetimes, if you will.
well, I
It's
do. I do expect this podcast to go more than 20 minutes because I feel like we got a lot more to cover.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking your. It seems to be, and the spaces with Ox an hour ago had Crypto Mewtwo on. He mentioned he works in cannabis, but also familiar with the Denver kind of legalization of magic mushrooms and psilocybin. And it seems to be, of course, I've written in my Substack a few articles on psychedelics and mental health. It seems to be slowly awakening, where modern society, the last 100, 200 years, we've really lost our connection with nature, and also with that Dunbar number, with our super family, our extended family. We're very isolated, and our social connection, our mental health problems are rooted in an unnatural connection with the world. And it seems to be people are slowly waking up, where one by one people are expanding their awareness through meditation. They're trying psychedelics. They're exploring, say, free diving, or uh, honestly, they're trying something new. They're opening their mind. This is me thinking
Yeah,
or
which
talking out
I
loud.
think. No, no, I love it. Like this is what we're supposed to be moving towards. When let's say I was probably like a senior in high school. That was when I started to really see the world in a different way. Um, and I started to realize the things that were happening. And it's like now you look up until even just from mental today for me. And it's like, we are making a lot of progress. We might see a lot of negativity on mainstream media, and we understand on a deeper level what's going on that we might not agree with, but there are people moving in the right direction, and that's all you can ask for. And as long as you continue to get more people to move in that direction, I think we'll see a more positive society in the future.
Are you familiar with Stephen Greer?
The name rings a bell.
Or the Unacknowledged documentary, or the alien ET guy?
Did you send it to me on? Did you send me a YouTube link to that a while back?
I might have. A few people I definitely shared. It's on Amazon Prime.
I didn't. I haven't checked it out.
So Unacknowledged, which is on Amazon Prime, they go and they meditate out in the field in the middle of the night, and they kind of project out that they're on Earth, and they're kind of showing their location, and they zoom out into the solar system and the universe, and then they have videos capturing of different ET, physical and metaphysical, and aerospace craft appearing, and whether you think it's Fugazi or not, or there's, of course, the Pentagon has been releasing videos of Navy pilots chasing UFOs, and saying the videos are legit and pilots are on 60. It's my point is, it's not the question of, do you believe in ET aliens or not? It's that this Dr. Greer and his close encounters of the fifth kind, which is making contact with ET, it gets people out to go out and meditate in sync around the world. And that synchronization it's not about ET or whatever's out there or not out there. It's what's inside here. That Elon Musk is putting rockets on the moon. But there's far more to explore inside the mind, inside the consciousness, which we're all connected to. And since you mentioned the oneness in the source, I'm bringing this up. It's a tricky subject, but it's might be the most important subject.
Well, I do know that monks all meditate at like 3 a.m. I think that's like a thing. I'm not. Don't quote me on that, but yeah. I believe that like over in Asia, a lot of the monks at like 3 a.m. all do it because they're all like, it's the same thing as you're saying with the aliens. Like they're all meditating at the same time, so they have that universal consciousness connection, and like it's a different vibe.
Yes.
And that's So. And that's why you have more groups doing these meditation meets and circles. I've actually been a part of a few like meditation things, with like big groups of people, and it's different. Everything just gets real quiet, and you're just it's an experience. It really is.
It's an experience with absolutely nothing going on, yet everything's going on.
Precisely.
Right. In this documentary it's also on like Amazon, Netflix. It's not supernatural, superhuman, something like that. Well, anyways, they're studying consciousness. And Institute of Noetic Sciences, founded by Edgar Mitchell, sixth man to walk on the moon, who big advocate for like ET and all that other stuff. But so conscious, they looked at plants, and they put the plant in a room with 4 quadrants, and there's a light, and the light is powered by a random number generator, which flashes in one of 4 quadrants. What they found was when they moved the plant to different quadrants, the random number generator wasn't random. The light always had a bias, the random number generator, to whatever quadrant the plant was in, which showed 2 things. 1, the plant is conscious, and 2, that consciousness is influencing the random number generator. They take groups of people and they have them meditate on a 0 or a 1, or light or dark, or some binary thought. They influence a random number generator so it's no longer random. Also, they found random number generators put around the world on big events like 9/11, the 2005 tsunami, the 08 like banking crash. Random number generators weren't random on high energy impact days when everybody in the world was like kind of synchronized either by something positive or negative, usually negative. Synchronization.
So we're starting to get into like gematria.
I'm not familiar with what's gematria.
Okay, so that's that. It's basically what you're saying. So right after this, you're actually. I already know you. You're gonna end up looking it up. You're probably looking it up right now.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, it's. I can't explain.
Oh,
you're just gonna have to
assigning a number to a name, word, or phrase based on its letters.
Yes, but like it's much deeper than that. So like
Biblical origins.
Where it's with everything. So like for example, like people use gematria for like certain like sports events. Like for the Super Bowl, like gematria told everybody that the Buccaneers would win the Super Bowl this year, based off of all the numbers that were occurring with what was happening with Tom Brady and the playoff run and the amount of throws that he had. And people connect all these numbers, like, and then they add up to a certain number, whether it's 777 or a certain, like, I guess, universal numbers. But once you dive into it, it gets really interesting. It's not something that I have a lot of knowledge on, but it's something that I have definitely run into over my lifetime and tried doing some research on.
Well,
but that's exactly what you're saying.
I was going
that's
to be
what you're talking about
productive
with numbers
this weekend, and now I'll be reading about gematria and betting on the Super Bowl.
Yep. No. You're. It's exactly what you're talking about. So that's
simulation
what it is.
vibes are strong.
And once you start going down it,
it's all
everything's connected, man. Like
it is connected.
I mean, like I would. I have someone really close to me who always says anytime something like this happens, it's called a holy instant. So
holy instant.
You and I are just we're on a holy instant. Like it's more I guess more from a Catholic standpoint, Christian standpoint, but right there, like we're just connecting on the same plane. We're seeing it with everything in the jungle and the way things are occurring. Something that you think about, and then all of a sudden, like it comes up on the screen on your computer. It's crazy, and people don't want to believe it, but everything is connected. Everything.
I'll give you an example. Ox is like a virtual, obviously stranger, friend, but this is like a week into the jungle, and we realized we're both in the same job or the same employer, and we also went to the same university, and we're like a year apart, and we also know a bunch of people in common. And it was so. This is at like middle of the night on Discord. We slowly start realizing that, and it's like, was it a coincidence that ended up here?
No, there's no such thing as a coincidence. There's no such thing as a coincidence, and I will always say that. I mean, there isn't. And
could you elaborate? I mean, of course, people have heard that before. But...
So, one of my obviously my favorite show of all time is The Sopranos. I mean, hands down. But that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is one of my favorite shows of all time is. I'm talking here, man. But wait, hold on. Little thing. Sponge said something at 9:20 in the chat. Yo, fake. I don't know what we were talking about 7 minutes ago. I mean, maybe he was talking about the moon landing being fake because you're talking about that. I don't know what else.
He just texted me or DM'd me. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But anyway, so one of my favorite shows of all time is Mr. Robot. I don't know if you're familiar with it or you heard about it.
I am. I watched. I've seen the first 2 seasons, and those faces, the mask they wear, people are actually wearing that now.
Dude, dude, I'm not even kidding. It's exactly what I wanted to occur in my life, and it's happening right now with the jungle. It's literally the same thing, but with more of a positive spin and not as much of a, I guess, I wouldn't say Antifa, but I feel like there was more violence and there was a little bit more, like it was more about computer hackers. But it's the same kind of thing. It's about starting a financial revolution, changing the world, changing how people think, being anonymous, and all of that's connected. And one of the biggest quotes from that show is there's no such thing as a coincidence. And once you start to realize that it's not just a show, it's really connecting just to real life and reality. There really isn't. Everything happens for a reason, whether it's good or bad, but it happens for a reason.
You do feel that, and I think the first time I really felt that was psychedelics, but it was, you started hypothetically, of course, information purposes only. It's usually, oh, you got a couple of friends and maybe you're in college, whatever, and you just gotta try it. But then you get to the point where you realize your awareness, your intelligence is expanded. So you go and take, say, 5 grams of mushrooms or hero doses. I don't know what says.
Yeah, a little heroic dose, Terrence McKenna,
Or Terrence McKenna, and you go meditate for a couple hours in the dark, and it's without going into details of crazy shit. It's feeling that interconnectedness with nature and human, feeling that human experience. What does it mean to be human? No words can describe it.
And
it's a feeling.
And we're all disconnected. We're connected to it, but on another level, we're all disconnected to it because of where we are at in society and how far away we are from what is actually reality, right? So it's like
right.
it's that fine balance of like going inside yourself and feeling that interconnectedness, but also realizing the outside world is the outside world. I don't know if that really makes sense, but that's what
it leads into
coming
a
to
couple
me
days
from
ago.
the source,
You mentioned something. It was nature. You go raw form, raw milk, raw fish, raw sex. Chris had a laugh, and then I'm like, wait,
right?
Interesting. Return to your roots.
It's like to elaborate on that. Everything raw is usually better for you, right? So you want things in its purest form. You want things to come straight from God, or God that was not man-made, but something that came from God. And I don't think God intended us to use condoms. So it's like raw sex. Yes, there's STDs. Yes, you don't want to get somebody pregnant. This, and that. But I will tell you that raw sex is much better than
you're preaching to the choir here, brother.
Yeah, but exactly. But on like a deeper level, it's because you're actually not connected to the other human being because you're putting a fucking plastic bag on your cock.
Right. It's like wearing a face mask, trying to talk face to face.
Exactly.
Face condoms to the rescue.
And it's the same thing with how with dairy, at least here in the United States, everything's pasteurized now. In certain states, raw dairy is banned. Why is raw dairy banned? Oh, because of the bacteria. You can get salmonella. You can get bullshit. Like, we're supposed to be eating from the source. Like, you take milk, right? And when they pasteurize it, they heat it up, and all of the nutrition and the vitamins are just gone. So what's the point of drinking that? There's no nutritional value. I mean, you can even go to the store, and if you're not looking at organic milk, they pump synthetic vitamins into some of these milks to say, oh, you're getting your calcium or whatever. It's like,
right.
Well, that's not really like why would I have it that way when I could just have it the natural way that our bodies are meant to absorb it?
Absolutely.
So I mean, if you go down like just the rabbit hole of just like raw milk, for example, raw milk is one of the most nutritious things that we can consume as human beings, and we are meant to consume it.
But is it up there with like
almost
beef liver?
Any farmer in America? Yeah, it's up there with beef liver. Beef liver is definitely up there. Colostrum, which is the mother's first milk from a cow. It's like usually between like 7 and 10 days, I believe. When the mother, it has more nutrients for the calves. So that's usually like the number one most nutritious food. You can get that in like a powder. You can get it in pill form. But you do have to find it from the right sources. I use Thrival, THRIVAL. And it's really expensive. Like if you want to get the biggest one, it's like $300 or $400 for like a big jar that'll last you like 6 months to a year. But it's fantastic for you. It has every vitamin your body needs. It has minerals in it that your body needs. Uh, it, and it fills you up. So if you really want to, you can just take in the morning, take a glass of water, throw some colostrum in it or raw milk in it, and then maybe have like 2 raw eggs, and you'll be satisfied throughout the day until dinner time or even later. Um, so that's, to me, raw stuff is always better. Raw honey's better. Same thing. They heat up honey, takes out all the nutrients. It's like, if you really think about it, it's like, why would people do that? Why would they go through a process to make things not as nutritious for you? But that's
Or
the whole
back
point.
up.
The system's against yeah,
If this
the system's against
didn't
us.
work, if we couldn't drink raw milk, then we would have stopped drinking a while ago. We're adapted. Somehow we survived all this time.
Wait, what was that? I lost you on that last part.
On the raw food, whether it's milk or maybe fish or something else, if we were able to eat it for millions of years and all of a sudden we need it pasteurized, well, bullshit.
Yeah,
if we were able to do it before,
exactly.
nothing's changed.
But that's the only thing that there's obviously I'm a human being. There's things that I need to work on, and it's like trying not like to channel that frustration towards more positive things, because I get so frustrated talking to just normies, and they just are like, oh, like everyone else does it this way, and it's like, well, you're a fucking idiot, like because you're like everyone else, so you're just being an idiot. It's like you gotta think outside the box, and it comes that way to everything, and it's like, get to the natural purest form. We do it with with cannabis. We do it with certain drugs, but when it comes to the foods that we eat, look around go to a regular supermarket, right? The whole middle of the supermarket is crap. You want to shop around the perimeter of the supermarket. That's where all the real food is.
Visualization.
So
I'm
when
thinking
you go
about
to
it right
supermarket,
now. I grocery store,
right?
and I go right. I hit the meat, and then I end up going over to the butter, and yeah, it's the shit in the middle. Maybe salt. I think I have to go in the middle for salt.
Right. And the thing is, I always look at it as everything in the middle of the grocery store is poison. It is. It's meant to poison you. I don't want to get too deep into this because we could talk about it all night, but cereal, for example, if you eat anything from General Mills, or Kellogg's, I'm sorry, you're not gonna make it. NGMI, no way. Like it's not what you should be eating and what you're consuming. That glyphosate is crap for you. The wheat they use is crap for you. The corn they use is all GMO, and it's just not good. So it's like shop on the perimeter of the store.
You say glyphosate?
Glyphosate.
Glyphosate. That might be. Is that the one? The Monsanto Roundup.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So glyphosate. I was butchering the name. It was mapping out a timeline. So the GMO, genetically modified crops, they're weaker, less resistant to disease, or they're basically such that they need the Roundup. And that Roundup, I think it heavily started, was it late 80s, early 90s? Whatever the timeline mapped up, but they were looking at different
around there. I would
chronic issues like autism, allergies, ADD, asthma, and a bunch of other like early childhood diseases that are so much more common than they used to be, even a generation ago, even like 40 years ago. And they mapped the timeline when Roundup glyphosate was released, and they're showing it go into, it's just a food, then it gets in the water, and you have rain, so now it's in the air. So there's poison in the food, the water, and the air. And the timing of glyphosate maps up with the timing of all these unexplainable explosions in disorders. It makes you think.
100%. But where we're going in this conversation, I can't believe we got to this point. But basically, Everything that we have been taught through conventional means. So like just, public school, the media,
Bullshit.
everything, do it's bullshit. Do the opposite. And everything that the government does is not for you, it's for their benefit. They don't like you. They treat us like cattle. That's what they look at us as. And if you if once you start to realize that, everything starts to open up in your mind for you, because you start to realize, okay, I kind of see how things are going now. So I guess I want to bridge it to this just because it's just my my consciousness. It's just stream of consciousness. But I talk to people about chemtrails all the time. A lot of people don't believe in chemtrails. But
I've seen them.
If you first off, if you just do your research, the government has admitted that they do it. So that's the first thing. But people say, "Oh, it's a conspiracy." Well, the government's admitted it, so it's not a conspiracy. But
they call
if
it
you look up at the sky, there's a difference between. Oh, if you look up at the sky, you'll see. You look at this, like you'll see it. There's a difference between a regular contrail, which disappears within seconds, and then a chemtrail, which stays up in the sky for a couple hours at a time, slowly dispersing. And I'll have conversations with
across the sky
friends of mine. Exactly. I look at it and I'm just like, look at people and I'm like, the fact this doesn't bother people. Like, we go on highways every day, people drive every day, go to their 9 to 5s, go to work. Everybody sees it, and everybody, for the majority, the 99%, they all think it's just normal. And it's like, I don't understand how you can't be outraged by that, because it's killing you and your families and your pets, and you don't realize it. Like, because you or I, we only have control over what we can control. We can't control the chemtrails.
Nope.
Right? So
only how you respond.
That's exactly. So, I'm not. I know we just got all the way over here from raw food, but
high level,
it all connects.
The pattern in the jungle and bow tie community. And meaning I read an article comparing the parallels between Bitcoin and carnivore diet. As an example, the community is generally the mindset of rejecting the mainstream narrative. Bitcoin is the absence of fiat. Carnivore is the absence of sugar and seed oils and carbs and whatever. It's elimination
and bullshit. Right.
It's making the counterpoint. So if they tell you to do cardio and eat canola oil, I'll do a bench press and eat eggs. They tell me to do a 401k and buy government bonds, I'll not do a 401k and not buy government bonds.
I mean, it's really like that, and my whole lifestyle basically surrounds doing the opposite of what we're told and what we're supposed to be doing. And guess what? It's worked out for me very well. And there's people that a year ago weren't in my life that I'm around. I'm not talking about the jungle. I'm just talking about my personal life. And they will both tell you that they've told me multiple times before I've saved their lives, I've changed their lives. And it's like, I don't want to take credit for that. I'm just like, it's just me being me. But it's like, no, they're like, you got me off alcohol. I didn't realize how bad alcohol was for me, and sugar. I never understood chemtrails. I didn't realize that the marijuana that I was smoking was actually, not that clean, and it had, pesticides in it. I didn't realize that all the food in my cabinet was basically shit.
Right.
And all of a sudden, within the last year, these people, you start to see how much they change, not physically, mentally, and all of a sudden it's like, because they're doing the right thing, and it's like not just going with what everybody else is doing. And I'll tell you, it makes me happier, and it makes everyone around me happier. So it's like, that's the goal, right? The goal is to be happy. That's really the main goal.
It is.
So,
and how you define that is of course a whole nother tangent. And I don't think there's a end state where you're just like, I'm happy-go-lucky and everything's fucking great. It's more of a peace and presence. You have accepted the things you cannot change, and you had the courage to change the things you could, and you're content with that.
Yeah, I mean, you get it. You and I are on the same.
Sure.
We're in the same boat, man. We both get it.
Absolutely. But here, long run is also with the podcast is to eventually bring on more people, and of course Twitter Spaces. Well, it's live only, but having an audience where you have a few people kind of debate almost intellectual sparring on a different subject. So maybe it's diet, nutrition, and helping people make small adjustments one at a time for their own well-being.
Yeah, man. As you say that, it reminds me of just kind of like the vegan cult, So going back and forth with them because a lot of vegans really truly believe that they're doing right for their body, and it's like if you kind of go to that side, put yourself in their shoes, you can see why they believe it's good for them, but they don't have all the facts. So it's like,
I'd say you can kind of see it. It's physically, it's show me a carnivore that's weak and frail and tired and hungry and sick all the time. Show me a vegan that is all those things, and you'll find a dime a dozen.
Yeah, 100%. I forget who that one girl is on YouTube. There's this one girl on YouTube that she started her journey like 5-7 years ago or something, and she documented everything being vegan, and you could literally document her whole timeline through all the videos and see how much more deathly she looks as
aging.
the years go on. And it's like the proof is right there in front of her face and to everyone else, but it's like once you get sucked into that mentality, you start lying to yourself, or you start to really believe your own lies, and it's like, I mean, we see it with everything, You see that with everything.
All right. Well, make an analogy, it's almost like beef and Bitcoin are in the same boat with it's the energy, or it's the cows farting too much, as opposed to the monocrop clear-cut agriculture that destroys all the soil, and Bitcoin using 75% renewables when the Teslas we drive around are running on 12% renewable energy from our local power. It's when I see that, it's like, damn. As an example, did they get to Elon, or does Elon just not understand? Clearly, that's incorrect. It's the same mistakes we all make when we first get.
I think he understands, right?
I would like to think he's smart, and he's just being deceitful with his audience versus he's also dumb, and but then it's like, all right, what's the ulterior motive?
It's the elite mentality, right? I mean, the elites are a special club, and we're not in it. And you see, I think Elon is just another I still respect him in certain aspects just because of the way we certainly view things. But for the most part, he's just another elite to me. He's just another, puppet for something bigger.
Right.
Everything is scripted, in my opinion. Everything's already scripted out all the way through 2030. Have you ever read Agenda 2030?
What's it called?
Agenda 2030.
I'm not sure. See if the cover's from
there. Okay,
is that the UN thing?
It's basically the New World Order.
Oh yeah, yep. I've read that. Yep.
So the whole point of that, right, is they go and say it's about global warming. Basically that's the whole thing. It's about climate control and climate change. That's what they're trying to get across to everyone around the world. But they don't. The thing is, if you really read into the fine text and start to realize what they're doing, it's all about the plan to be able to have total control over the whole world and have a one world government. And that's why we continue to see things about climate change. And that's why I think it was 2 days ago, Joe Biden said the biggest face issue facing Americans is climate change or global warming. And I think almost every American can, even people that I would say are more like left or far left, would even agree that that is not the biggest issue facing America at all. I think the biggest issue facing America is probably finance or some of
Wealth
these social issues.
inequality,
It's definitely not.
the polarization, political polarization, the fractional reserve, central banking.
Right. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, we can keep going with it, but basically, that's what is going to continue to happen through 2030. That is the goal. They're gonna for the next, 9 years. They're going to continue to push global warming, and they're going to say we have to do this because of global warming. We have to do this because of climate change, and it's all fugazi, whatever, however McConaughey wants to say it, but it's bullshit. And they're going to use it because they're using human empathy to be able to say, oh, we all have to care about climate change. And so we're going to go with your agenda because we believe your agenda is doing right. But we all know that the agenda has nothing to do with climate change. It has to do with control. And it leads all the way down to what Bowtie Bull says about bugs and everything.
Yep.
That's
a good analogy.
They're gonna continue to do that. And I don't want to put it out there because the things you put out there, it can become reality. But I do believe that before 2030, I would probably say between 25 and 27, we're going to have a famine. And people don't want to believe that that's going to happen. But just look at what happened the other day with a fifth of the meat plant or whatever. Or not a fifth of the meat plant, a fifth of the meat, So we're headed towards that. And I think people just think that we live in some, I don't know, like a fairyland or some shit. Like everything's always going to be okay. But less than 100 years ago, we had the Holocaust. You think 100 years ago was that long on the whole timeline? No. Like we could easily run into something like that again, but people just they don't want to believe that something like that can happen. But it's like it's occurring right now. Look at the Uyghur slaves in China, right? So I don't know. I mean,
that lines up the timeline of the fourth turning. Are you familiar with the fourth turning, the book theory?
No.
So published in the 90s, basically it mapped out that society follows a life cycle, about 80 to 90 years, a long human life, and it's broken up into 4 phases. A childhood phase, young adult phase, middle age, elderly. Or they call the rise, the awakening, decline, and the turning, the fourth turning is winter. It's so roughly every 80, 90 years. And they predicted fourth turning would start around 2007. This is the 90s. One of the authors is alive, and in hindsight, he's like, yes, about 2007, iPhone, wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, housing crash. So about 80, 90 years ago was World War II. 89 years before that was Civil War. 89 years before that was American Revolution. 89 years before that was the intercolonial wars and then the Glorious Revolution in England. 89 years before that was the Spanish Armada. 89 years before that was the War of Roses. And the data goes back to the late 1400s. They don't have written records before that falling out. And they found that there's consistent patterns. So, for example, you can predict which phase within each 89-year block. If it's the first quarter, the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, inequality peaks, wealth, immigration bottoms, birth rates peak, etc. And it's a whole rabbit hole and a whole other tangent. But fourth turning, definitely take a look at it. Try to evaluate. It's the timeline they map is so about 25 years, 2007 to about 2030 and change. So we've got almost a decade left of this. And seems like we're getting warmed up.
And you're right. Nope, that's really interesting. That because I've never heard of that, but it's if that's lining up with 2030, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like these next
The
9 years, 10
2020s
years
is
are
the
going to be
1930s.
the big.
The 2020s
It's
is the
going to be the
1930s.
biggest ups and downs. Yep, and it's going to be the biggest ups and downs you and I ever face. Like we're gonna have some high highs where we really I think the high highs are crypto, um, certain technology,
Maybe
and
AI.
stuff like that. But then we're gonna have the low lows, and the low lows are probably gonna outweigh the highs. I don't want to put it out there, but that's just the way it is. And right now it really is a battle of good versus evil because we have a lot of people out there that they're just psychopaths that are really evil people, and all they want to do is control, control, control. And it's like it's just unbelievable, just like looking around at how much everything is fake and how everything is propaganda. It's like everywhere you turn. I mean, I can't even go on my phone or go on a social media app without being told I have to get a vaccine.
That's
If you really start to think about that, that's absolutely freaking crazy. Like I am being told by Instagram, basically telling me go get the vaccine. You can schedule your vaccine. Anytime someone posts something about a vaccine, the CDC little blurb pops up at the bottom, or the WHO blurb pops up at the bottom, and it's like, okay, so only two to three people are controlling all of the information, or organizations controlling all the information, and everybody totally just wants to trust it. And they're like, doctors know that data backs it up. It's like, what fucking data are you looking at? You're looking at a bunch of data that is paid for by these people to get the data that they want to give you. Right?
So ownership of information, distribution of information.
Yeah. So people are going to continue to see all the way through 2030, and it's good that I'm able to discuss this with you on here, because I can't get all of these points across through text on Twitter because I will be shadow banned. Or
any of these
suspended.
keywords, yeah.
And these are the things that I do want to get out to the world, and doing anonymously is great, because I think that some of my ideas and the things that I think are different than what even some people in the jungle would think, but it comes with a lot of thinking and a lot of research, and it's not just something that I just read and pulled out of my ass. It's like I if I find something of interest, I dive into it. I research the hell out of it because I want to make sure that I fully understand the concepts and what's happening in that information.
It's quite a time to be alive.
It really is, man. It really is, and it's just shocking. I mean, I'm blown away every day that right now that I'm sitting here talking to you. Like, what the fuck? I'm talking to another animal, but like, it's so much more than that. It really is, and it's like I can try and tell my friends or family or whatever about it, and they may understand it, they might not, but for the most part, they kind of look at me a little sideways or a little crazy. But it's just like most of my life, I've been kind of looked at a little sideways or a little crazy, and it's worked out for me in a lot of ways because I think outside the box. I want to explore the world. What? You ever see that video of Alex Jones where he does the screaming for a minute, and he's just like, all these people are listening to Justin Bieber when they could be they don't give a shit about traveling the world or whatever. I gotta send it to you. It's hilarious.
Definitely watched.
Yeah.
Alex Jones. Of course, he's been on Rogan a couple times recently. Alex Jones, the early 2010s, and then I stopped watching that for whatever reason, and now it's kind of scary how much of the shit, the crazy shit he was talking about, has actually happened or begun. It's like, oh.
Here's the holy instant, bro. Holy instant. Was talking about this last night with a couple of my friends at Buffalo Wild Wings. Now, mind you, I didn't eat anything at Buffalo Wild Wings. I ate dinner before because I'm not eating any of that shit. But like we were sitting down and we were talking about Alex Jones, and we were talking about, like, look at how many things that he's predicted that were real. He hits the nail on the head way more than anything on mainstream media, but he will always be demonized. And it's like, I don't know if he really is a shill or whatever, because there's you can sit back and say that it's a whole psyop or whatever, but
Controlled
you know
decision.
but I enjoy his content. It's the same thing as Joe Rogan. I personally believe Joe Rogan is a little bit of a shill. You know that he knows things that he is not allowed to say, and especially the Spotify deal, he can't say now.
Right.
That because he was all in favor of basically flat Earth, and he didn't like NASA, and all of a sudden changes his tune real quick to it, and he starts putting NASA shirts on for all his podcasts. I mean, that was a little bit weird.
It is.
It really
It is
was,
odd that he has such a big influence, but it's like whatever. He's got celebrities come on. They talk. I mean, one celebrity's talking about unacknowledged and the ET Dr. Group, but he's talking about DMT and smoking weed with Elon Musk. And it's just like, this seems too like easy that he's this popular and he's not vilified like Alex Jones. It's like, okay, all right, controlled opposition. We'll give a little platform and we'll manage it. We'll manage it.
It's like once again, like back to the balancing thing. It's like I enjoy Joe Rogan's content, but I am weary of everything that is on there. So it's like it's still good content. It's not like he's still providing a lot of information and helping a lot of people, especially men that are dealing with probably masculinity issues. The same thing with what Jordan Peterson does.
Yep.
But you still have to be, you kind of have to just take a step back and make sure that you're not totally sucked into it, because it's just like anything else. Like if you get sucked into anything 100%, it's like you're going to get blind. You're going to have your blind spots, and it's like you want to be well-rounded and be able to see things from other perspectives, because, for example, like Joe Rogan isn't God or Jesus. Like he doesn't have all the answers. It's just like anybody else or any celebrity that people worship, even though I don't understand why people worship celebrities. It just doesn't make sense to me. But
I understand it a little, or
yeah.
my ego thinks I understand it. It's what the Spaces was talking about like 2 hours ago with people being all these political whatever, but they don't take care of themselves. They're pieces of shit. They're unhealthy, but yet they think they're better than you because they're like, yeah, like, climate change, like go vegan. It's they're living vicariously through something else.
It's cognitive dissonance at its finest.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance. I don't have to work on myself because I'm figuratively working on other people.
Right. It's crazy, man. All of it is. All everything. It's just like
Pointy question: how do you, of course, with all that in context, how do you contemplate your own mortality, spirituality, God, whatever you want to call it? How do you contemplate that reality that we're going to die? Memento mori.
all right. So I personally, my beliefs are I'm a man of God. So I was raised Catholic. As through high school, I think I lost my way. I think a lot of kids kind of go through that where they don't really believe in God or anything because of just what's going on in their lives and and then the people that are surrounding them. I feel like I've reconnected with that. But I do believe that like there is a spirit world. I believe that reincarnation is real, but we just don't remember it. I believe that you and I have had, 9 lives, whether it was as human beings or different animals or entities, but we won't remember that. We could,
For the most part.
So that's how I look at it. Do I feel like if we're getting a little bit deeper from the mortality, do I fear death? I think I think the majority of people fear death in some type of way. I totally haven't let go of that. Like, there's parts of me that definitely have a fear of death. But as I have gotten older, I have learned to let go more and recognize that it is in God's hands and not mine. And when you kind of start to follow that path, things start to fall in place for you.
it's time to the external versus internal. Serenity prayer, which you can't control, which you can't control.
Yeah, and that's always kind of been my motto, like there's a lot of things you can't control, and it's like there's certain things that I may worry about, and I try not to worry about, and that's like those are the things that I have to work on through meditation, breath work, and focusing on the right things. But yeah, it's all about what you can control, and for the most part, you can control everything in your inner verse, and if you learn how to conquer wouldn't be the right word. I would say just like how to understanding yourself and your inner self, that the outer world, like the things will start to get better in the outer world for you. And I see a lot of people that I know, and I see them struggle because they're so focused on the outer things, and they don't realize that like it's really not the outer things, like it's the inner things, and then your outer world actually changes because of the inner things.
Interesting.
Because because we were talking before about like energy, so it's like if I like try and go more inside myself and go more inner, and like let's say I focus on love, the outer world I will have more love because I'm focusing on it on the inside. But if I'm on the outside and I'm trying to focus on love because it's something that I want, but not something that I'm going inside and like actually really feeling, I'm not going to attract it. And that has, for at least for me, that has been in my life. That is real because the proof is in the pudding for where I'm at in my life and where I come from. Because I came from a space where I dealt with a lot of trauma and abuse, and like today I'm not in that space, and like that's because of the inner work that I did in God. It's not because of the outer shit.
Finding peace with yourself to find peace with the world.
Right. Exactly.
Is there a specific meditation? Well, actually, back up. Have you read any about both side breaths?
I listened in on his piano thing for a few minutes, but unfortunately, it was like going in and out. Like the audio wasn't good. I think I dabbled and I looked at something that he did, but it wasn't. I didn't look into it much.
I definitely read one of his Substacks. It goes into Wim Hof and freediving, all the breath work behind it, and how that incorporates with different meditations. But it seems right up the
Wim Hof is great. I got one of his books. I knew about him like probably 6 years ago. He's a great man, and he like the things that he's actually done are unbelievable. The fact that he learned to control his immune system is absolutely insane to me.
The E. coli.
Yeah, when he got I know he got injected with a certain virus or a certain flu or something, and then like he literally, and so it was E. coli. Yeah, I mean that just shows you the power of the human mind and the human body, and a lot of people don't want to put in that work, and I can understand that, but that's just so cool. Like that's superhuman stuff right there, and the fact that he just did it by breath work and going into freezing cold water, that's all you need, Like we have everything that we need. Like God gave us everything we needed.
It's almost, and of course there's these transhumanism, like life extension, like trying to solve aging. And it's like, it makes me think of that movie with Justin Timberlake, Time, where everyone's 25, or the rich can live forever, eternal youth. Death is what makes us live. We die because we live, but yet we live because we die. If we didn't believe we're going to die, then we wouldn't capitalize on the time we have. We wouldn't innovate and produce and progress. And also we wouldn't appreciate. It's like we have the tools to live a healthy, fruitful life, and then it's on to the next. And it's like Jeff Bezos is doing better than us, but we're all doing better than Steve Jobs. It's like, what are we racing to?
And Jeff Bezos, might be doing better than you and I financially and in the business world, and he always will be for the most, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's happy. That doesn't necessarily mean that he has all the things that he wants. Like, my life is far from perfect, but, I have people around me that I love and care about, and that makes me happy. And it's like I'm only competing against myself. Like, comparing myself to others isn't going to do any good. Like, I can compare myself if I want to do, like, for example, imagine if I compare myself to Bow-Tied Ox. Like, I'm not Bow-Tied Ox. I'm not jacked off my ass. I would like to be, but I'm not there
Army
yet.
Ranger.
I also don't. Yeah, I never was in the military. I don't believe in taking testosterone. I'd rather go the natty way. But like, I don't judge him for that. Like, I actually respect him for it. But it's like the same thing. Like, you can't compare yourself to others. You just can't. You're competing against yourself. And I think a lot of people get caught in those like certain like mind traps, because I even see it in the jungle. I feel like some people are trying to compete against one another in the jungle, and it's like, it's not like that. It's not about competing.
It's that abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset.
100%. Yep. Hit the nail on the head.
Damn, puppy. I honestly I might break this up on the recording. I'll try to find like a natural transition.
Yeah, no.
And maybe make it into two.
Yeah,
but I will.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No. I was just gonna say, like, we've been on here for a while, and my AirPods are gonna die soon. So
yeah,
they're making that little noise in my ears, like that they're dying.
Right.
So
we're the AirPods. We are the AirPods. I will. I'll clean up a little bit. When I get it downloaded, probably end of the day Saturday, I'll kick it out as a YouTube link. I'll share my website. I'll share the full with you, and like the clips. I'll probably just do some clips on Twitter. I'm not sure if I'll put the full thing, because even if it's half, it's still. I mean, who goes to Twitter and wants to listen to something for half an hour? But I'll start with little clips.
No, yeah. I mean,
some highlight shots.
It's not like you. Right.
Like 53 minutes
it's not like
in.
You or I are. We're still new to the game. Like, we're still like, we've only had these accounts for a month or two, and it's like you got around like I think 800 followers. I got like almost 400. It's like, unfortunately, a lot of people, like, there's not enough people that still want to watch this that long. But in the future, They will. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
They will.
Get people in.
There will be people, but right now
you get another speaker coming in.
We're still early.
It's so tomorrow, Saturday, I think Sponge and Breath are doing something on like consciousness, breathwork, spirituality. They're going to do a spaces, and Breath is going to play some piano while doing that. I'll be there, and of course we'll promote it. It's making it up as we go. These are all proof of concepts. Puppy, I appreciate you coming on today, and Daily Degens, something like that. Yeah, Daily Degens. That'll work.
No, dude. I really appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you inviting me. I'm looking forward to having more conversations with you and everybody else. This was my first day in the jungle talking. Obviously, as we discussed before this, I wanted to go the voice changer route, but started to recognize the hurdles we would have to deal with that. And it's like, it's just so much easier just hopping on with your real voice because of Twitter Spaces and, Discord chat. And it's like, I want to be able to connect with you guys because I'm connecting with you on a text basis, but I'm like one of the only guys that isn't really talking, because I kind of feel like there's like that core that we kind of have with Discord and Twitter. Like, you kind of have like a core group of like 5 or 10 animals that you like, we're all kind of like in the same kind of thing. And it's like, I want to connect with you guys because you guys are more like-minded than to me than anybody else I've ever been around, because a lot of people from where I'm at, like friends or whatever, a lot of stuff I even talk to them about, they don't believe me, or they're not interested in it. And it's like, I don't judge them for it, but it's just like, I wish that I could have, more intellectual conversations with individuals that share the same, knowledge and ideas. And that's what we have here.
And the whole bow tie community has created a filter, but at the same time, we're having these conversations on Discord and now Twitter Spaces. And if someone you don't vibe with, there's just another animal avatar onto the next. But if it's like a good friend of yours and you kind of go off the cliff, it's almost like a point of no return where it's like, oh, you just burned that bridge.
Right.
Almost kind of echoing what you're saying.
So, right. So right before we get off, so are you into sports or no?
Into sports?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did we talk about your sports podcast, which was literally the first thing on my list?
Well, that was what I just wanted to say, because you invited me on your podcast, so if you're into sports,
oh yeah,
I would
let's break. Hold up.
First guest
like, give me like 5 seconds.
Podcast.
Hold up, 5 seconds. Just silence.
Yeah.
All right, a bow-tied puppy. You mentioned a sports podcast on Twitter a couple days ago. Any details you can share? What that might look like? What you're trying to adjust? The vision you have for a sports podcast?
I mean, so Barbary, you inspired me 100%. So that goes out to you. So right there, like, that's just, think about that. As a human being, you're inspiring somebody else. So like pat yourself on the fucking back. All right. Seriously, I do. The thing is, when it comes to crypto, I believe that I would call myself like somewhere like intermediate. I'm not a total, autist like crazy like Melkor, or I understand things on a beginner level really well, and then when it starts to get to DeFi and more advanced parts of just DeFi and crypto, that's where I start to struggle. So it's like I can provide information there, but like not as much of value. I look around the jungle and I don't really see anything with sports. Now I understand that sports aren't totally, at least if we're talking about sports, it's not totally a productive thing, right? It's not about improving ourselves or anything, but we don't have that medium. And I know that the majority of the jungle is men. And that means that most men in the jungle watch some type of sports. Most people watch at least something, or at least they're interested in something, or sports betting or whatever. So I want to start introducing that to the jungle. I want to talk about all different sports. We can talk about people participating in sports. We could talk about, what's going on in the sports world, whether it's baseball, football, soccer, tennis, etc. Analytics. I'm a big analytics junkie. I believe that analytics are a huge part of a lot of sports that are evolving, and we're starting to see that with the numbers.
Moneyball.
And I would like to just. Moneyball is one of my favorite movies. Probably one of the best movies that was produced in the last 10 years, other than like Wolf of Wall Street and maybe a few others. But most of the movies that were produced in the last 10 years have been shit. So yeah, Moneyball. I love Moneyball. 100%. I really love Moneyball. One of my favorite quotes of all time is still "Adapt or Die" from Billy Beane. I think that's what we're doing right now when it comes to the jungle and crypto, and just realizing, like, crypto's the move. It's not fiat. Adapt or die. But yeah, I just want to be able to start talking to other animals and seeing what they think about sports, and just even having a 30-minute to an hour conversation, just chill being guys and just talking, discussing whatever's going on in the sports world. I'd love to talk to people about what they think about what's going on in baseball right now with, the spider tack and the sticky on the pitcher's hands, or what we should expect for a 17 game season in the NFL, which we've never had. So I mean, sports is that you could talk endlessly about sports, and I think that would be a good place for Puppy to be able to show off his knowledge from that perspective.
Absolutely. And there is precedent, of course. Bull has posted a couple prop bets for line bets for maybe it was boxing, but sports.
Exactly. So do you got a favorite sport, or are you a big sports guy? Or
I'm a Patriots fan, so immediately Mike drops, everybody unfollows me and blocks my account. I watch football on Sundays, but I don't really follow sports, especially sports in like mainstream news and politics. That what I was watching when I was in grade school, high school, it's just kind of died. I barely watch TV.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, I don't watch TV much. I still follow football and baseball, and I still follow like my teams pretty religiously. But I don't watch for baseball. I don't watch baseball every day. It's like maybe once a week. I might sit back and enjoy some of a game. But it's not like it used to be. It's not like I'm totally obsessed with it. When I was in high school, that was my life. I was obsessed with it. Now it's kind of more something. It's like an escape, something to enjoy. But I recognize it's not productive. But that's why I think the podcast is a good medium to be able to talk about sports and be able to kick back and enjoy it and feel like you're doing something productive with it.
Would Spaces as a pre-concept make more sense? Bowtie Puppy hosting whatever you're calling it, some sports spaces, insert your name, and on this time of day, and cross promote it, gets people to hop in and see where it goes, where the conversation goes.
Yep, that's the goal, and I'm a Giants fan, so I'll take those 2 Super Bowls from you. All right.
All right. Say you have a little bit of an accent. I'm like, I wonder.
Yeah. So I'm a Giants fan, so I'll enjoy those 2 Super Bowls. But I think you'll take all the Super Bowl wins you got with Belichick and Brady, and I assume you probably even enjoyed watching Brady on the Bucs last year. So.
Oh yeah, every Pats fan is now a Buccaneers fan because it was 80% Brady and 20% Belichick.
Right.
It's hot damn, man. All right. Now I'm gonna call it. That's definitely the record run. I'm definitely going to split it up. I had to do a 5-second tactical pause because I'm going to cut and do a clip with just the sports stuff and get like the meat of it. So it's like, hey, here's Bowtie Puppy. He's thinking about doing a sports podcast.
Oh, dude, that's awesome, man. I mean, I appreciate it. And, I hope to be back on your podcast soon. I hope to have you on the sports podcast and,
absolutely. More conversations and more degeneracy.
Exactly. Well, have a great night, brother.
Yeah, you too, Bubby.
The hay soon. And
the hay's gonna hit us.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you stay safe.
I'll see you.
Take care. Cheers.